The 3,700 hours of Nixon tapes are more than just Watergate. They're a backstage pass to White House power politics. Richard Nixon was the first president in 120 years to enter office without a majority in either house of Congress. He wasn't the legislative master his predecessor was, but as a former congressman, senator, and vice president, he knew how the process worked. He was only as conservative as he could be, and only as liberal as he had to be. Coming up, a step back, before Watergate, to President Nixon's first term, and calls with Senate Majority Leader Mike Mansfield, House Minority Leader Gerald Ford, and his 1968 election rival, Senator Hubert Humphrey. We begin on April 6, 1971. President Nixon called Senate Majority Leader Mike Mansfield. The two discussed how to keep secret a meeting with congressional leadership before the president talks to the South Vietnamese president.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Hi, Mike.
Yes, Mr. President.
I don't want to put you out in terms of your own schedule, and that's why I'm calling you before I give the others a ring. I would like to meet with the Big Five, be about, say, 7 o'clock tomorrow night if you're not already left. But if you're gone, why, the only check we have found is that I think Ford's going to be here, and I haven't checked Albert or anybody like that. Could you make a meeting at 7?
Well, I was planning on leaving about 1 o'clock today, Mr. President.
1 o'clock today?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because we haven't to do tomorrow.
Oh, I see. All right, I'll tell you what I'll do with you if you like. Let me suggest this. No, that's too bad. Then if with you, wait a minute. The only ones we have are you and let's see, Majority Leader. We have you and we don't have anybody else in the Senate anyway, do we? Except you on the Big Five, do we? Yeah, that's right. We got the Speaker, we got Boggs, we got Ford, we have you. Oh, Scott, of course. Right. Let me ask you this, because you and I can speak in confidence. I'd like to tell you before I make the announcement what it's going to be.
Okay.
It has to be closely held, Mike.
It will.
Well, I'll tell you with a reason. It isn't political, but I'm not informing Q till tomorrow. See, and I don't want him to read it. I mean, any leak or anything like that. There've been all sorts of leaks as to how many and all that sort of thing. So I just like for you to know, and I'll just tell you, and let's just say that it's one of those meetings that was never held.
Okay.
Is that all right with you?
President, yes, sir.
Fine. Now, if you would like, and just as you understand, also Scott Woodkins knows how to join if we told you the day in advance. But you understand. Could you come down anytime today? I'm over in the. I'm free anytime. I'm working on the talk, as a matter of fact, today.
Well, I have
What's your schedule?
to testify at 10 o'clock, and I could be down there at 10:30.
10:30 is fine.
Yes.
10:30, 11, better? What time you want? Anytime. Suit your time. The only time I'm tied up at 11:30. Between 11:30 and 12:30, I'm doing some revenue sharing message. But I could.
Could I make it flexible, say between 10:30 and 10:45?
Sure.
And come in the southwest gate or the northwest gate?
Well, let me just see which. I don't know which gate is which. Which gate? The southwest or north?
Well, the northwest gate is.
Come in the southwest gate and come to the EOB, and one of our guys will be downstairs to bring you up. You know, it's the little office where you and I met before.
Sir.
Fine.
I'll be there, sir.
All right, Mike. And are you going home?
No, I'm going to walk the beach and do...
Oh, that's right. You're going to Florida.
Yeah.
Right, at the East Shore. As I recall, where do you go?
It's Boca Grande.
Yeah, Boca Grande. I'll tell you that. I hope it's nice. Gee whiz, it's going to snow here today.
Well, I want to get away from it.
Okay, Mike.
Okay, Mr. President.
Fine, I'll see you then. And as I say, can we say that you and I just talked about our visit to Montana right now?
Yes,
Because I believe, because I've got a little sensitivity with my Republican leaders.
Good enough.
All right, Mike.
Mr. President.
Fine.
Later, the president called House Minority Leader Gerald Ford of Michigan. They start off talking about a floor speech by House Majority Leader Hale Boggs that accused the FBI of wiretapping congressional offices. They mention House Speaker Carl Albert.
Good morning, Mr. President.
Hi, Jerry.
How are you?
What's the matter with your opposite number?
He's nuts.
My God, I when I read the Star last night, and incidentally, I thought you made fine comment, but I said, well, Jesus, Key, right? Did you know that the FBI has not had a tap, not only on no congressman or no senator, but not even anybody that has ever, the moment they cross into that Capitol since 1924. Did you know that?
I didn't know that, but
Hoover's got the record. I mean, this is the most ridiculous damn thing. But the fellow he's on the sauce, isn't that it?
Well, I'm afraid that's right, Mr.
Or is he crazy? I mean,
he's either drinking too much or he's taking some pills that are upsetting him mentally. Last Thursday, when we were getting the program for this week, he was mumbling. He was almost incoherent. It was very embarrassing to Carl and to everybody who was on the floor. We've got, I hate to say this, but we've got to be awfully careful
what we tell him. Well, that's the problem. One thing I called about you, I'm afraid that we'd better not. I was planning to have a meeting at 7 o'clock tomorrow night of the Big Five, but how the hell can I tell him? That's only 2 hours before, though. He can't do much damage. No, he'd probably go out and screw off on that. But I don't think I can ever tell him anything in confidence.
Well, I think you've got to be awfully careful. Anything that's classified.
I know. Well, frankly, everything I say is classified because they go out and quote the president, and that becomes part of the record. Well, anyway, I don't know. Is this something that you could talk to Carl about in confidence and say, look, I mean, in other words, I never have any problem meeting with you and Carl.
Right.
But, God, maybe that's the answer, that I'll meet with you and Carl, and damn it, I'm just not going to have this fellow down here because you can't have a nut, you know. With Carl, you agree he isn't ever going to leak anything, will he?
He's a man of high principle.
Well, all right, I'll leave it to you to talk to him, Jerry. And
I'll talk to Carl, and then I'll call you back or talk to Clark.
Well, I'll tell you what you do. Why don't you can call me back, and if I'm not, I'm going to be doing some revenue sharing messages at about 11 to 12. But if you find that Carl feels that there's any doubt, then what we'll do is to just have you and Carl, and from the House, and just say we want only 2 from the House, and then I'll have only Mike and Scott from the Senate.
I think that's a proper dividing line.
After all, in a sense, it's sort of the speaker is a partisan.
That's right.
And it would be like having the president pro tem added in. You know, we used to add Dick Russell for reasons, but we don't add Ellender.
No.
So I think if I could have you and Carl, I'd feel perfectly free to talk anytime. But that's what I really called you. But I don't feel I can talk in front of this fellow. I mean, I think he's just off his rocker.
Well, let me talk to Carl, and I'll put it quite frankly.
Tell him that we'd like to have you down at 7 o'clock tomorrow, and I'll give you a complete fill-in, because there is something in great confidence, and I am going to tell you, that may not develop.
Right.
But, on the negotiating front.
Right.
But I just want to give you a little feel of it,
Right. All right, I'll talk to Carl.
But I would never do it if Boggs were there.
Well, I don't think you could under the present circumstances.
I'd have no problem with Mike.
Oh, no.
Okay.
All right,
Fine, but I'm glad you... what do the other members think of his attack on Hoover? I mean, understand, we all know Hoover's old and so forth and so on, and good God, he's got to make up his own mind about the retirement thing. We know that. But on the other hand, gee, gods, you can't just damn the whole FBI for being Gestapo. That's just ridiculous.
Well, I was just shocked when he took the floor.
With the Democrats shocked, some of them?
Well, they just sat there with their mouths open.
Yeah.
And so I just off the cuff got up and made the comments that I made because...
I wish some Democrat would get up, too.
It was right at the outset.
I see.
And there were very few members present.
Right.
And so the kind that would have spoken up, unfortunately, were not there.
Now, tell incidentally, your little doves that are flying around in your coat over there to just pipe down, hold their horses, and wait till after they hear what I have to say.
Well, I I gave him a couple of them a good lecture yesterday.
Well, the whole point is this. I mean, what the hell is it going to prove? I mean, we know there are probably 25 that'll sign something like that. But the main point is we got a hell of a lot more that won't. And you were, incidentally, very good on the morning show. I didn't see it, but I read the transcript. Boy, you poured it right to them.
Well,
keep kicking them in, you know where.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, Mr. President. Thank you.
From April 6, 1971, President Nixon and House Minority Leader Gerald Ford. By then, the Nixon administration's policy of Vietnamization was in full effect. The American troop presence in Southeast Asia had been cut by more than half, but the military stalemate there had only deepened. At home, the anti-war movement was still going strong. It had been less than a year since the Kent State Massacre. And on April 7th, President Nixon addressed the nation.
Tonight, I can report that Vietnamization has succeeded. Because of the increased strength of the South Vietnamese, because of the success of the Cambodian operation, because of the achievements of the South Vietnamese operation in Laos, I am announcing an increase in the rate of American withdrawals. Between May 1 and December 1 of this year, 100,000 more American troops will be brought home from South Vietnam. This will bring the total number of American troops withdrawn from South Vietnam to 365,000. Now that's over 2/3 of the number who were there when I came into office, as you can see from this chart on my left. The government of South Vietnam fully supports the decision I've just announced.
2 weeks later, the president talked to Ohio Republican Senator William Saxby about his recent trip to Southeast Asia.
Bill?
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to thank you for I didn't get to see it, but I was just looking at my news summary, and I saw your comments on the morning show, and I'm grateful. I hope you don't catch too much hell for it.
I won't. No, I think that...
I followed you while you were out there. How long? You were gone about how long?
10 days.
10 days. It's really worthwhile. You know,
It gives you an insight on what's going on, especially in Laos, because nobody can believe that.
I have asked, and I would appreciate it if you would do this. And I know you get everything, but if you could give a full report to Henry Kissinger on it, so that we can
be happy.
And then after you finish, we can. I'd like to get a little feel of it myself.
One of the difficulties that I had talking about Laos is that I'm sure you're familiar with.
Yeah.
What's going on there is just very unusual.
Yes, of course. We know. You don't even talk about it on the phone.
A lot of it's classified, and I was limited on what I could say, but I think this Godley's doing about all he can do.
He's a good man. He's a good man, and a decent man, too, you know.
Decent man, and he's thrust into an unusual position for a different man.
You want to remember, too, that, Bill, that Laos is something that Harriman set up back in 1962, that this has been going on, that we made the first disclosure of it last year in March, and that we're doing everything we can to wind the damn thing down, and if there weren't 50,000 North Vietnamese in there'd be no problem.
And don't forget about 14,000 Chinese.
Yeah, up there in that road thing. That's the kind of thing I'd like to get a little fill in. Well, I'll have Henry give you a call when and if you'd fill him in, I'll appreciate it.
I'd be happy to.
Fine. Get a little rest.
Thank you.
Right.
President Nixon happened to arrive at the White House as the modern environmental movement was beginning. He had almost no record on the issue and had barely mentioned it in his 1968 campaign. But with the nation in a recession and his approval ratings below 50%, Nixon chose to pick up the issue. By the end of his first term, President Nixon would propose an ambitious and expensive pollution-fighting agenda to Congress, including the creation of the Environmental Protection Agency. Here he is talking to California Republican Craig Hosmer about nuclear energy on June 4th, 1971.
Oh, Mr. President, since you missed our meeting when we had on Breeder Reactor, I wanted you to know that we sent the message today, Craig, but that I just told Ziegler to tell the press that it was a bipartisan effort that you and Hollifield and so forth had been bugging me about it. The one thing I wanted to tell you, too, is that Hollifield was there last night for the 8th Club thing, and I've told the people around here, now this has got to be something we play very close to the vest, but I am being ruthless on one thing. any activities that we possibly can should be placed in Southern California in this field and also in the saline water field.
Good.
We need the jobs. We need to sop up those aircraft workers. Now, we're going to do a couple of new things on water, for example, and I've decided to throw one big plant into Southern California. I mean, a big, one of these implementing, you know what I mean, is it's just a question of how big the plant is. And this will be one that go there, but in this energy field, I told Dr. David and of course Seaborg and the rest that we do it. So on the committee, every time you have a chance, needle them, say, where's this going to be? Let's push the California thing.
Will
you do that?
Incidentally, Mr. President, I am so delighted you released that $16 million on the improvement of the enriching complex.
Good.
That handles a bad blood problem for us.
Right. Good.
Unplug some.
Well, they told me you were interested in it, and I said, well, if Hosmer's for it, I'm for it.
Thank you very much.
Well, good, but I didn't want you to know. I wanted you to know that I was aware of your interest, and
yes.
But you were out in California at the time of the meeting. You see.
Judd has worked very closely with me.
Well, he told me. As a matter of fact, he told me on the plane going out. He says, "Look, Hosmer's and I had just been together."
His statement that he's given. We've got special orders this afternoon, and he does nothing but compliment you for 17 pages.
Well, if you talk, you might say that I called and expressed and pointed out that this was a bipartisan initiative, and that the problem was there are two things: the problem of more energy is bipartisan, and the problem of clean environment, a clean source of energy, is bipartisan. And this is something that we're going to work together on and all that. Okay?
Fine and dandy, sir.
All right.
Thank you very much, Mr. President.
President Nixon and California Republican Congressman Craig Hosmer from June 4th, 1971. Minnesota Democrat Hubert Humphrey was one of the nation's most prominent liberal politicians in the mid-20th century, and his long career made him one of the leading figures in U.S. Senate history. As Lyndon Johnson's vice president, he was the administration's voice on the Vietnam War, and when Johnson stepped aside in 1968, Humphrey won the Democratic presidential nomination, ultimately losing to Nixon in the general election by just 500,000 votes. He returned to the Senate in 1970. And here are the one-time rivals talking about a recent Humphrey floor speech.
Hello. Well, I wanted to call you on a completely personal basis to tell you that I hope you didn't get into too much trouble by rising to my defense on the Senate floor, and I'm most grateful.
Well, I didn't. It didn't bother me.
I just want you to know, Hubert, that as you can imagine, whether it's arms control or China, and also in this area, there are things going on that may not meet the eye. That doesn't promise anything, but certainly whether they work out or not, the point that we all agree on is that when you were in office, and the same is true of Lyndon Johnson. Nobody wanted to keep the damn war going. Everybody was for peace. And now we are. Now, we may disagree as to how and when and all that, but I did appreciate it very much. And
well,
I just want to say, if you got a little flack from your party, just know there was one party down at the White House that was appreciated.
Well, I very much appreciate that, and let me say I did exactly what I would have expected that you or someone like you to have done under the same circumstances in which you did do.
Yeah.
And I believe there are rules of fair play, and I'm not going to, I have too much respect for the office and the man that occupies it to permit things like that to go unchecked.
Well, I appreciate it. We hope to make be making progress. I can assure you that if it, as it comes, we're going to be in close touch with all sides, because there's no political mileage in anybody in keeping this going. You know that.
Of course not. We know that. We know that. My goodness, it isn't. If anybody wants to talk politics, it isn't even good politics.
That's right. It's good to talk about something else.
Yes, I should.
That's right.
So well,
I'm most grateful. And,
thank you. You're very considerate, and I'm very appreciative of this.
How are things going? You keeping busy? I see.
Keep busy. Busy. I wish I knew what I was doing all the time, but I keep busy.
You make speeches all the time.
Yeah, I know.
I think, as a matter of fact, that if I look around, I'm staying out of the political infighting this year. I've got too many other things to do, but you seem to be without, as you should shouldn't get without getting involved in a huge organization. You seem to be keeping a lot of people wondering.
Yes, we keep.
I noticed that last poll was rather very interesting.
Yes.
You hadn't done a darn thing, and all three of you were about even.
That's right. I was going to say I was going to write a paper on how to succeed without trying, but
that's right. Okay.
All right. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
From June 10th, 1971, President Nixon and his 1968 presidential campaign rival, Minnesota Democratic Senator Hubert Humphrey. One of President Nixon's most well-known pre-Watergate controversies was the Pentagon Papers. That was the name given by the New York Times to a top-secret Defense Department study of U.S. involvement in Vietnam from 1945 to 1967. In March 1971, military analyst Daniel Ellsberg, who had worked on the study, gave a copy of the report to the New York Times, which then published a series of articles about them. The Justice Department fought in court to stop the newspaper and in June won a temporary restraining order. Here's a conversation from June 17th between the President and House Minority Leader Gerald Ford. They talk about some recent legislative wins and the publication of the Pentagon Papers.
Hello?
Hi, Mr. President.
Well, the boys did very well, didn't they?
They sure did, and
they came through in great style.
We lost, I think, 21 or 22, and we won by 98 votes, which is a better margin than we won on a comparable vote a year ago.
That's really great, Jerry. That's a marvelous job.
Our guys did real well.
Right, right.
So,
well, that's really great, and that let the Senate vote is really very heartening.
Well, it ought to tell the enemy that all this division is superficial rather than real.
Yeah, well, it also shows that the men that lead are not going to just follow polls and all the rest of the thing. They're going to stand up, and we're ready to, negotiate from strength rather than division.
Well, our guys did a good job, and I think if you had the time, a call to Eddie Hebert would be very appropriate.
Yeah, I see. Uh-huh.
'Cause he, led the fight, carried the bill, and without his total cooperation, we would have had trouble.
Yeah. I'll be sure that I'll give him a call. Yeah.
That was a good presentation this morning, I thought.
Well, I think we got him shook up a little on that.
Yeah.
And now our people should really ride this issue. We're not in a partisan way, but we can make it our issue. After all, this is and mainly just to not let it just be zeroed in on Vietnam. It's a national issue, and it'll be here long after Vietnam, and we're going to fight the drug traffic.
Well, it'll have a big public response.
And because, as I put it, it's public enemy number one. Let's just think of it that way and crack it.
That's right.
Right.
Now, we just got to win H.R. 1 and that, but we'll take that up next week.
That's next. Well, what do you think of all this hullabaloo about the New York Times? Isn't that the goddamnedest thing?
Well, I have mixed emotions in some respect. I just soon published.
Yeah, I know. It really exposes the other side. I understand,
but that's not right.
But as you know, what they did, though, they really are trafficking and stolen goods.
Sure, that's right.
And hurting the country. Boy, I'll tell you, they lost me with that one.
Well, it doesn't do any of their people any good, including Hubert, etc.
Yeah, Hubert's really crawling, isn't he?
I think we ought to just sit back, other than the legal issue.
Yeah.
We should sit back and
let them fight.
Let them explain.
Yeah, right. Okay, Jerry.
All right, thank you, Mr. President.
Great.
Okay, good night.
President Nixon and Gerald Ford from June 17th, 1971. Later that day, the president called House Armed Services Committee Chair and Louisiana Democrat Edward Hebert. They talked about the Pentagon documents and who they thought the New York Times source was.
Well, that's we got to fight for the right things, We got to fight, boy. Yeah, after our experience, after
you can write a book.
After our experience, I was just thinking when I was thinking of the shameful New York Times thing of what we went through so many years ago. I was just wondering, what in the world do responsible publishers think about to put out trunkloads of secret documents?
It's getting worse every day.
It's awful, isn't it?
It's getting awful. I mean, no responsibility.
And it's, I mean, as I say, it's no skin off from a political standpoint. Part of it's no skin off of our back.
I think as far as this latest thing that's happening in your favor.
But we get no comfort out of that. It'll destroy the presidency.
It'll hurt somebody, the next guy coming along.
That's what they're trying to do, too.
That's exactly what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
It's a bad.
We'll fight it all the way. And I'm telling you, I've told Mitchell, by God, we're going to find we think we know the guy that did this. He's a fellow that worked over at Ellsberg, who worked in the Defense Department. And by golly, we're going to get him, and he's going to go to jail.
That's the only thing to do with it.
That's right. He's got to go to jail for this.
It's the only thing to do.
That's right.
Well, enjoy and see you anyway.
Good to see you, Eddie.
Can I see my colleague? Bring him along with me all the time.
All right. Okay. Bye.
Thanks a lot for calling.
The two talked again a week later. You'll also hear briefly from Defense Secretary Melvin Laird.
Mr. President?
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to tell you that I was very grateful in reading the news reports last night and this morning for your statement on that House conference. I tell you, boy, without stand-up guys like you, we might as well call Mr. Bruce home. That's true.
You do good.
That's right.
A good citizen just walked in here now.
Is that right?
The one Melvin Laird.
Oh, yeah.
Can you vouch for him?
Now, listen, don't leave any secret papers around while he's there.
I won't leave any secret papers around.
He's afraid he's going to haul it out. Incidentally, though on that, I do want you to know that I'm most grateful, and actually, Ed, I hope that you can. I mean, in the conference, all you need is, frankly, just to take out some of that that language. You know what I mean? For all the houses voted one way, the Senate is in the rest, and as I told Ziegler to point out, the Senate's only one half the Congress.
Only one half the Congress, and I'm going to have a very short conference. I'm only going to put about 5 men on the conference.
Is that right?
Yeah, from our side.
Right.
Only the guys with powder dry will be held.
Well, can you have good, strong men?
Oh, I'm going to have strong men.
Right. Who'll be on the other side?
It'll be Les and Okonski. Les, of course. And but Les will be one.
Who'll be on the Senate?
On our side, it'll be Hebert, Fisher, and what the hell, and Mel Price.
Well, that's a good bunch.
No, we solid.
Now, what about the Senate side? Who will they have?
I haven't the slightest idea.
Well, in any event,
you can't.
I'll tell you why this language is so important. We just need, as I've said several times, that we can't hope, and we are in the process now, I can tell you, of trying to conduct some negotiation. The time will end when we can't do anything, and we'll know it. But we really need to get any kind of directive out, because if you put yourself in the position of the enemy, if the enemy says, yeah, they're going to get out of anything, hell, they ain't going to negotiate.
Well, hell, all they've done, Mr. President, on this thing is just 9 months. Is the same as that amendment was offered before.
Sure.
It doesn't mean anything else.
That's right.
No, don't worry. I'm going to stand pat. They won't have a bill.
Right. Good. Incidentally, on this paper thing, Mel will fill you in. Can I get him on the phone? I want to tell him what you say.
I think we can work this thing out. If my suggestion is if I get a hold of those papers, I'll handle them that nobody's going to get out of them.
Right. Well, the main thing is as you know, it's no skin off our back, but we've got to protect the security of our sources.
And I'll explain. Mel just got here. I had time to explain what I have in mind. If I get a hold of them and they send it in regular order,
right?
I'll make such conditions and rules that we won't have many visitors.
Right.
And we'll know exactly what they are, and I'm going to have printed in big letters the criminal implications.
Yeah. The other thing is, of course, that on the Senate side is that
that's that problem.
We don't know. Okay.
That's
fine. You tell Laird if anything gets out, I'm going to blame it on him and not you.
On him. Wait a minute. Here he is.
Him and not you.
Okay. Yes, Mr. President.
I just told the chairman, as I said, if any papers leaked while you were up there, I was going to blame it on you and not him.
I know that's probably.
Well, he's sure a stand-up guy. Yeah. It's great. I hope that if they don't know what they're going to do, a joint committee or a House and Senate or what, but what do you think they'll finally come out? They do.
They won't go joint.
They won't. All right, fine. Well, let's tell the House to get out front and have its hearings first.
And
oh, well. They just won't.
I understand.
Go that way.
Well, that's all right. That's all right. Each will do its own way.
And I think we can't really.
No, we can't say.
Can't say that.
It's up to them. Up to them. Right.
Carl feels rather strongly about it, and so does Eddie and Jerry. So,
well, look, whatever the House wants, I'm for.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fine.
Later that day, the president spoke with Mississippi Democratic Senator John Stennis.
Hello?
Hello, Mr. President.
John, I didn't want to bother you, but I don't want this day to go by without telling you I am really proud of the fight you've been putting up down there. And by golly, in the end, it's going to come out all right.
Well,
it's. I'm afraid. The only thing I'm afraid is that the vote might be interpreted by. Let me say, there's some very sensitive talks going on now.
Yes.
Very sensitive.
Yes.
I can assure you.
Yes.
Now, if they break down, it'll be because of the vote, and we're going to have to put the blame there. But I don't want to do that. But if it does, we're going to have to do it.
Yeah.
But boy, you and your people have done a marvelous job, and I just appreciate it.
I wouldn't blame you for putting the blame where it belonged. I'm mighty sorry about that thing yesterday.
Oh, well.
The thing had built up. I think this Pentagon Papers stuff, it gradually undermined us a little.
Sure.
And,
well, that's too...
You did a marvelous job all these weeks there, because you did hold the dikes until yesterday, and that was the mildest thing they had in sight. And
sure, it was pretty mild, that's right.
Yeah.
And we'll just go ahead and do what's right, and in the end, we'll be judged how it's coming out, and it's going to come out all right.
I'm doing what I do because I think you were trying hard and a battle for us, and we'll always be free to talk to each other.
You bet your life.
About it.
Now, on these papers, I've agreed with the leadership, and I told, for your information, probably you've already heard, I told Mike that I thought that the chairman of the committee should be you. Because I think, frankly, you can preside over the thing if they have a select committee.
Yeah.
It's like Russell did the other one. You need a guy who's a judge and not some damn advocate like Fulbright.
Yeah.
Okay?
Well, I hope that works out, and I just don't know what will be done. I just don't know.
Just pick a good man if you don't do it, okay?
Thank you.
All right.
You're mighty nice, and I appreciate your call, too.
From June 23rd, 1971, Mississippi Democratic Senator John Stennis talking to President Nixon. A week later, in the now famous case of New York Times v. United States, the Supreme Court ruled 6-3 that the newspaper had the right to publish the Pentagon documents under the First Amendment. Next time on Presidential Recordings, the president wins a landslide re-election. We'll hear calls from members of the Nixon administration about poll numbers, staff changes, and more. Thanks to NixonTapes.org, the Miller Center at the University of Virginia, and the Richard Nixon Presidential Library and Museum. Remember to follow Presidential Recordings so you never miss an episode.